Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 requests for certificate of compliance. File number 62, 92, 219, and 235 from Patrick Layton, 105 Honey Pot Road. Hi.
Hello,
You're on.
I'm on. So, from our last time, we appealed to the DEP, and we're still in the middle of that situation. They're reviewing the plans that I believe they sent you some time ago. And as one of their conditions was to get up to date on, as it turns out, 4 conditions, order of conditions going back 25 years. So that's where we are. So I believe you have the paperwork that I put in for those requests.
Yes, although I really haven't been able to look at it. I mean, I've been emailing Tim Nyhart and trying to see what he had for information on some of these and finding the files and going through them. But I have not looked at really the 4 different things. Well, one of them, the one that was the denial, actually didn't need to be recorded, but it was, so we can do a certificate of compliance as was never started and blah, 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 sort of one. That's the
Which one was that?
235.
So,
So-
what was that one?
That was the one we just did back in, when was it? April.
And
And that's the one that Patrick has appealed, but at any rate, so we just did them all just in case.
If it's under appeal?
Huh?
Do we do anything on that if it's under appeal?
Yes, because it was still a denial and it was still recorded, so he just wants to get it off of the
Off the deed.
deed, yeah.
Okay.
So, that's a possibility, although I didn't bring paperwork. I think, maybe I did. At any rate, the other ones, and we're going back and forth on, and I had another talk with Tim Nyhart today. And what he was saying, I was asking him, since he's the zoning enforcement officer for the floodplain stuff. And so really, from our point of view, most of it has to do with comp storage for the house and the deck. And you had provided us with a very short note from Randy Iser saying that, I guess, I don't remember what exactly it was, but that the house and deck were basically
Well,
as
if
built.
we kind of take
Yeah.
them in sequence.
Okay,
All right, in terms of number 62,
okay.
170-62.
Okay, the oldest one, yeah. Replace
The oldest one.
Right.
And on the certificate of compliance, they asked that if any registered engineer or architect or surveyor had submitted any plans to submit some kind of document from them, that indeed it had conformed. So that's what the Randy Iser piece was, and I believe I submitted that stapled to the request for the certificate of compliance.
Okay.
in,
On
That's
the
this then.
special conditions that were established at that time, there were 4 of them.
That's the thing, that's that one.
The
Okay.
first, in terms of addition, shall be elevated as shown. I think that is what Randy Iser showed you, attested to. The plan that we're in the process of, that we just submitted to the DEP, required a very detailed site plan that established that elevation, and what Randy Iser did was essentially refer to that back to when that part of the house was originally elevated. No utilities are below the first finished floor, which there are not. I think I responded to your question, that even the power is on pull cords out of the ceiling. It's been flooded 3 times since then, and that's just par for the course. So in a way, the proof is in the pudding, in the sense that, you know, there are no utilities. The grading or fill or other disturbance did not occur. No additional demolition material to be deposited, which there was none. And approved construction of foundation and addition per state building codes. Before any work begins, the building, I did meet with the secretary in Nyhart's office, and we went through. There was a building permit. It was finalized and was signed off on. Owner shall consult Board of Health regarding existing septic system adequacy. Since then, the septic system was replaced. So I'm petitioning, I say on 170-62 that indeed those conditions were satisfied, and requesting that we have a certificate of compliance to go with it.
So I would just say, I don't know if it applies to this one necessarily, but it definitely applied to the house, and I think it was like 92, and I'm losing all my paperwork here, the house and then the more recent deck, that he needs the FEMA form filled out and signed and stamped by Randy. That the FEMA requires that for any structures, any building in the floodplain. So Randy just, he says it's a simple, fairly simple form, but there's a place at the bottom that you now check as built, and you just have to stamp and sign saying that yes, that it conforms to the plan.
Randy would have to stamp
Yeah.
and sign it,
Yeah,
which is, it's basically taking the onus off the community
yeah,
and
try to
saying
figure it
that
out.
someone has certified, a
Yes,
professional with a stamp has certified that
yeah.
It
On,
meets the.
are we talking 170-62?
I don't know, that's why I said I'm not sure if it applies to that one that far back or not. I know
So
that,
that's one
we were
thing
talking about the others.
we need to ask Tim, whether or not that was a requirement when this was done in 92.
92, yeah.
What were the FEMA requirements when that was constructed? That's one thing we have to know.
This is the first I hear of this.
Well, I've been
You know,
asking, well, we just got it last week, and then I was emailing him, asking him, you know, are you set with these? Are there any things that you need to be able to be comfortable with the comp storage and the floodplain issues from a FEMA point of view? Because that's the most important thing we're looking at on these sites, is the comp storage and making sure that you're at the elevation you're supposed to be and all the usual sort of stuff. So I just talked to Tim this afternoon, I got back to him, he got back to me. And he had emailed me sometime the end of last week or whatever, but I didn't get it till I got in today. So really, I've only had, 2 days, last Tuesday and today, to try to pull it all together. And that's why I'm just saying that I'm just feeling like I just need to, I didn't pull out the folders until this evening for the meeting, because it's been nonstop. So I just feel like we should go through this, and then we'll know exactly, what's left to go back to. But then, to just wait until the next meeting to get what you need and for us to just to have a final check from the files with what, was approved and what was submitted as the as-built.
You could do me a great favor
Yeah.
if you could contact the DEP, because their
Yeah.
deadline, I think, as they were quite adamant about, right,
Right.
is.
Yes, except that, how
is-
many times did you get an extension? Yes, I will talk to him.
Yes,
But
If
yes, on
if
their.
the onus is on us, because we need to be able to go through all of the information, that will not reflect on your permitting.
Yeah,
Because it's the commission, it's not you asking for an extension, it's the commission
Yeah.
saying, in
Right,
order for us to
yes.
process it, we need the time to go through and dot our i's and cross our
Yeah.
t's.
Okay.
So that's,
Yeah, that will,
that would
Yeah.
be,
yeah,
that would be the
because
explanation.
me going back and
right.
asking for another
Right.
extension is
Yeah.
No,
gonna be,
this would be the
it's gonna
commission
be a
saying,
little tough.
yeah,
this would be the commission saying, based on the fact that we have plans and information going back to 92,
yeah,
that we do have the information, we need to verify whether or not what was required with FEMA documentation, and make sure those things match up, so that we're not issuing something that's not compliant with the town's requirements, because we were under the same requirements back then.
Okay,
That's what we need to clarify.
what do I need to do?
I think you,
get Randy to fill out those forms.
right,
So, and these are the,
They're a FEMA form, that's what he called me, he said Randy will know what they are.
FEMA as-built forms,
FEMA as-built forms.
yes,
And he needs to sign and stamp them.
right.
The important part is signing and to get him to stamp it.
Right.
Because that means it's an official
Right.
form. It's paperwork, but we wanna make sure everything's
Okay.
covered.
But now,
So-
Randy was on number 90, on number 62. On number 92, there was no engineer.
Uh-huh.
There was no,
Which one was 92?
92 was when we raised the house
Uh-huh,
and then built the second floor on
okay.
it, okay? So there was,
So what we would look at is the plans and information. This is where we have to look at the plans and information that were submitted, what was required, if Tim's gonna require that, some type of certification. And it's a matter of, the house hasn't moved,
Right.
so the elevations are still there
right,
of the house, and it's a matter of looking at, like Janice said, looking at the plans that were submitted, what information was required, and being able to say, yes, you've met, you've dotted your i's, you've crossed your t's, we feel comfortable issuing a certificate with that. And again, this is not on you, this is on us this time, to be able to go through the information. Because it's a lot of information, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 certificate of compliance with,
Oh,
Four.
'cause
One,
it's
two,
only four,
three,
'cause
four.
those
Oh,
are determinations.
Okay, 1, 2, 4 certificate of compliances that have all the work in the floodplain and that, when they were, 92, 96. And then 13 should be easy enough to do, and then 16 we can issue. So there's 3 that we would go back, because the 416 would be that was our denial. And so that would just be that it was denied, no work was done, and that would get that off your deed.
yep,
So,
okay. So, are we going to anticipate that we can get this done for the next meeting
Yeah.
in January?
yeah,
Okay, all right.
Excuse me, I think I missed something. Please help me. I'm Polish. Did he say he already has submitted the plans to DEP, or he needs more time to work on them?
so, DEP has all of his information.
Okay, that was my missing.
DEP is asking for permits that were issued in the past to have a sign off from the commission. And that's what we're going through right now, is to say, okay, there was one in 92, there's one in 96, and then 13.
I was just leading back to,
Yeah.
as you all know, we've been here every month for more than a
Yeah.
year. And I just heard what happened during the previous, you heard me say on that. And I was wondering if we had not in fact submitted all that, could we possibly?
No,
grant
this,
everything?
he's
We're done.
looking for a certificate of compliance on the order of conditions that were issued, because DEP wants everything closed out. So in order to close it out, the commission has to look at what was permitted, what the plans and information was, what information, and compare that to the information that was submitted to say, yes, it meets the requirements, we can issue a certificate of compliance.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Are we done here?
So, almost, okay, so those three, and then the order of conditions that was, we can issue a certificate of compliance for the 170-235, because that was our denial, and no work was done under that, that's appealed, so if DEP decides to allow that to go forward, they would issue a superseding order, and that would have to be recorded. So, our denial is still on his deed. By us issuing a certificate saying no work was done under this, it can remove that lien off of his deed, which we would do with anybody.
Wanda, you'll explain it to me later. Polish.
I'm Polish too.
I knew I loved you.
Okay, so we can, do we have a?
I did want to point out
Oh,
one
yeah.
possible fly in this ointment,
Yes.
that I think I responded to you on your message,
Yeah.
was that one of the conditions on the deck was that no part of the deck be within 35 feet. And I believe you folks were out and actually measured it, and it conformed. And as it turned out, like within a month after it was built, the riverbank slumped. And you might remember me being here requesting emergency permission to be able to fill that in, which was denied. So the riverbank is where it is. It is, and we had to get it surveyed with a geologist, a soil person, etc., for the DEP in terms of exactly where that riverbank is. So if you take a tape measure out from the cantilevered overhang, it's 28 feet.
Well, we would look at where the house is, what the plans show the distance from the house, because the house didn't move. So the side of the house and how far out the deck was approved met the requirements at the time. It was not 35 feet. So as long as that is not, I mean, we can't help what the river does. We're not gonna tell people, once you build it, you know, you've gotta keep taking off 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet,
Yeah.
you know. We don't do that. Because halfway down the river, people would have to be, you know, modifying their houses. So we would look at what was shown on the plan and the distance from there, and if it meets that, then we would be able to say, yes, it meets that criteria.
Okay, great.
I don't think I have the paperwork with me for the last one. I thought I printed it out, but I don't find it.
You have it blank,
I would just wait until, just do it next time
okay.
with the rest of them.
Would that be an issue if we issued them all at once instead of just issuing one tonight?
Well, I'll just tell
Yeah,
Fellas that
you
we're
know,
still reviewing them.
it's, doing the last
Yeah.
one isn't gonna,
Yeah.
It's not
Okay.
gonna help anything.
So,
yeah, right.
so you understand, Janice is gonna be in touch with Dave Fowlis and explain we're in the process of reviewing all the information. So this is not you not meeting your deadline, it's the commission,
Yes,
the
that'll
commission's
help.
meeting schedule. Right,
I'm
and they
sure
they
help a lot.
understand that.
Right.
Mark was here tonight, so he understands that we meet once a month. So if your deadline was January 3rd or something like that, well,
Right.
we haven't met. So
Okay. Good.
that would not be on you, that would be on us this time. Okay. So for these, we would look to, we don't need any, it's just a request, so we would bring all of the requests for certificate of compliances to our January 10th meeting,
Mhm.
okay?
So
So
we'll continue those?
we, it's not a hearing, so
Right,
it's
so-
other business. So we will just publicly state that all of the requests for certificate of compliances will be dealt with on the January 10th meeting.
Will we be allowed to speak at that time as well?
Yeah, it's a public
And I
meeting,
just
so,
must admit, I did not realize that was Mark Stinson sitting
Yes.
behind me.
Oh.
And when I walked around and stepped around my dog, I turned back and I said, my son is a retired police officer. And you are as big as my son, and you can walk, just tread lightly around a sleeping dog as my son. And then when I heard you say who it was,
yes, that was Mark,
Polish.
yeah. So,
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah, yeah, he is too, so,
My ancestors were immigrants.
so, okay,
Are they legal?
so,
Did you want to do any questions or anything else?
I don't think so, I think we would,
Okay.
and if, in our review, if we've had anything, we'll make sure Janice gets that information to you with sufficient time.
Right.
So that we can potentially, we should be able to, take care of these in January.
Okay.
All right.
Marvelous.
Okay.
Okay,
All set?
Thanks.
you are all
Thank you.
set,
Thanks
all
for
of
your
you
time.
are all set.
And I mentioned something that was in the plan,
Yeah,
that he submitted to DEP, the site plan.
right.
And I'm gonna talk about the environment,
Plan.
and not the building right now. Except for the fact, it's strange that there might be a 35-foot setback everywhere of where he wants to put that shed. When he's moving it 15 feet closer to the bank of the river, is when he got and received permission through the building inspector for the plan to submit it. That was not on that plan that was approved. That was added later, during the last year or so, we've all been meeting. I don't know how we're going. But if you have a problem over there with 35 feet away from there, then you should have one over here.
Well, that's part of what DEP will deal with when they
Okay.
look at everything.
But all then secondly, more importantly,
You didn't steal them, did you?
concerning the
One of those.
restoration area,
Yeah.
which is totally within the basin of the Connecticut River, within the bank, past the bank, within the basin,
Okay.
past the shoreline, past the high water mark.
Right,
And I really thought all my time here that you weren't allowed to do work, carve up the ground, grade it, fill it, cut the trees down,
This-
or any other way mess with
right.
anything within the basin of the
This-
river. That's supposed to be natural, is it not?
This,
Wait,
well, at this point, the commission denied the permit,
Yeah,
so.
but he's going to ask them for permission to do just
Right,
what I
but
told
it's,
you.
it's out of our hands.
Right.
Let
We,
DEP handle it.
I
so,
see.
so the comments that you're
Okay,
making
okay.
to us, you should submit in writing to
In
DEP.
writing, so there will be no.
Always submit it in writing to
Okay,
DEP.
but there will be no verbal, actually, contestation
Well,
I
of
hear,
this.
they don't have
People
like
wanna
a,
go Christmas shopping.
yeah, no, they don't have a hearing, so to speak, like we do.
I see, I see.
It's all,
And if they get something in writing,
Mhm,
they have to respond.
right,
I see.
If you speak to them, they could say, I don't remember it.
I can
Right.
understand, yeah. that's
Right. right.
Gotcha.
You always wanna dot your i's, cross your
Sure.
t's, something in writing,
Issues like
is-
that in
goes in the
environmental,
file,
really
right.
environmental issues,
Right.
I should do that as soon as possible,
right,
because they're in
Yes.
process.
Yes,
yes,
yeah.
yeah, that's fine.
Did you write down the date for January's meeting, or do I have to interrupt these beautiful people?
January 10th.
January 10th, it's a Tuesday.
Oh, not another one.
Is that first Tuesday?
Second.
I'm telling you, these days never stop.
So the only question I have about this, and I don't know exactly how to deal with it, is that pretty much every one of the orders of condition says at some point in there, no additional fill, no regrading, no alteration of the land.
Yeah,
So
and
that, and that's
How do
where
we
we
do
need,
that?
well, that's where we need to go through and take a look. And part of that onus goes back to the commission, because, and years ago I started working on it, the filing system that we had
Yeah.
was based on file numbers, or who owned the property. It wasn't based on an address. So, one of the things that, in your spare time,
Yes.
or if we can get like interns or
I already,
something.
I already
something
did.
like
I
that.
did it by file number, but I made a master list of all the file numbers with the applicant and the address.
Because it would
When
be
I
nice.
first came, Alexandra
Right,
was having me do stuff, and I went through all the
Right.
files and redid them by address.
right, because address helps us from the point of, I may not know who owned it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And if it's filed by who owned it 20 years ago, that information gets lost. So if it's by address, in rare cases, an address changes. But, rare, streets change. We've had a couple
Our
streets change.
case, it went from 3
So-
Valley Pod Road to 109.
Right, so basically, by having it like that, we can then say, okay, here's all the information, this is what we've got for this property, and we can then move forward with it. So, and that'll be a conversation we'll have to.
I mean, what, I think all this gray is the new stuff.
Right, that's what they're
degraded areas.
proposing, right. So
And
this is what we need to look at,
so that's what DEP is making him, the gray areas on the colored map, I think are the areas that they call degraded, whether it's cement, whether it's stone, whatever it is. And that's what DEP was requiring that he map.
Is that brown strip there, is that what I
that's-
call the road he made?
I think so.
It looks like it.
I
it says,
think so.
no, it says proposed
Yeah.
restoration,
Yeah,
They're gonna
plant
keep
with
it.
native plantings,
Yeah.
yeah.
but that's where his road went started, where the,
It looks like-
where the,
it looks like
where
it
the
could be a
landfill
road,
he
right.
had, where the dump is, where the boat is.
Yeah.
That's where all the buried landfill
Yeah,
garbage
so-
dump is.
Well,
That's where the road starts. It looks like that's what it is. And it goes down to the beach and then back around up to his dock.
So-
They may be proposing to restore that.
right,
Sure.
and that's what it says.
Which would be,
And so what we will be doing in order to issue
yeah.
a certificate of compliance, we have to look at, here's the permit, this is what was required,
Did you do it?
did they
And where's
do
the
what
proof?
was required? We can't say,
Right.
did you do what was issued in a permit that was 10 years later? It's that permit right there.
You guys should come first. Before a guy goes to get a building permit, he should first come see you and find the correct location for it, instead of going and getting some plan to build a hotel, and then he comes to you guys, can I build a hotel on the edge of the river?
Oh, you mean like cut down all the trees on the site?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
better to ask for, it's
Right.
better to beg forgiveness
They're
than ask
aliens.
permission.
Right, there is that, so,
Okay.
okay? So I think we're good.
Yeah.
We will be working on this over the next month, and hopefully it will be given to DEP. So as I said,
I'll write some letters.
write some letters, try and state facts.
Yes.
This is the information that you would like to get across to them.
Yeah.
Then,
Yes, exactly, clinical.
yes, very
Thank you.
clinical,
Gotta go.
yes.
Yeah.
I get that.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm gonna run over here and introduce myself. Who am I? Hi, my name is Sharon.
Sharon, I'm
Nice.
Laura.
Laura.
I'm
look-
new-
Laura's
Okay,
our newest
look
member.
about- Yes, I know, I know.
I'm the new one. That's why I don't say too much.
Well,
I'm trying to
I'm
listen.
That's
I'm
right.
talking out there.
Well, no, see, the females go on this side, and then
Yeah, you gotta have
yeah,
that.
Gordon,
I
try and get down
don't
here.
tell him, never tell you that I just wrote January 10th, 2026.
Nope, 2000, well, you're too late if that's.
You're late, you missed
You'll
out.
be a year late.
So,
I've been counting backwards for 40 years anyway.
okay, so one more thing well, first of all, Clyde's gonna start work on their site tomorrow. according to,
Really?
yes, I met with them last Tuesday.
We're
and
supposed to have a real big storm coming this weekend.
I'm
Ice
Sharon,
and
he's
snow
Greg.
and-
We are the band
Start
called
to clear the
Carrie.
site.
Yeah.
Probably started
Yeah,
real
we're,
good.
well,
That's right,
we're also
yeah.
Go Green
Okay, the
people.
other thing was
I'm the
that,
secretary for the Go Green
the
people.
Hampshire College solar site that had all the
Yes.
problems, they put down a lot of erosion control matting.